Oregon, and we went that week, so I missed.
Okay, folks, we're calling this work session in order, and we're ready to get started. It is now 6:30. Appreciate everybody being here. For those of you that don't know, I'm sure he's going to introduce himself, but we have our new city attorney with us tonight, Paul Rosenthal. Is that right?
That is correct, Mayor.
Pretty close anyway.
Close enough.
About as good as I get. So glad to have him with us for the first, I guess, official meeting.
That's correct. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
he's
Glad
the
to be
interim attorney to make sure both sides fit what we want to do and what his office wants to do as well. So we'll move right into Planning and Development Committee. Linda Dodd called earlier today. She is not going to be with us. However, she had no actual items anyway. So we'll move right on to Finance and Human Resources. Ann Hunsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no actionable items.
Okay. Move right on to Public Safety Committee. Jay Boland called. He's not going to be with us tonight, but he had no actual items either. So we'll move right along. Now, we may come up with some on Thursday. We'll just wait and find out. But the man of the hour, the man of the meeting, the man with all the stuff, Public Utilities Transportation Bill Duvall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try my best to get through all this. Let's see. So the first one up is it on?
The light's on.
The light's on.
Can you turn him up, Mike?
I don't want to. Can you hear me now? You can hear me now.
There you go.
All right.
Now, who liked it better the other way?
Yeah. So, all right. So the first one up is the approval of the cottages easement agreement. So this is to provide sewer utilities inside the development. The development will put in the sewer utilities, and then we have to have an easement so that once, if there's anything that ever happens, we need to be able to get in there and service them. And I talked to Danny about getting, because they put in the legal, in your packets, they put in the legal description, which, you know, is a bunch of survey data that kind of tells you what's going on. But were you able to get an image of, so we could see?
I was, but there's not an image of all the utilities on one page, so I'll
Right.
pull up the development and show you.
Right. And while he's doing that, so I guess this easement agreement, has this been through Paul?
Robin had already gone through it, and I've looked at it, and it's in good standard form for an easement of this type. It's going to be private dirt. Of course, haven't looked at this development, but understanding y'all aren't going to own the roads, which is why we need this. Y'all will own the infrastructure of the water and sewer system, so this is an appropriate easement.
Paul, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I have some concerns about a couple of lines in here, to be the third paragraph. Just third line down in the third paragraph, it says, for the purpose of construction and installation of water and sanitary lines. And then the last sentence says, additionally, grantee guarantees to pay all costs and expenses of such construction and maintenance and repairs that grantee initiates over and through the easement area. If the city is not in any way responsible financially for anything, why do we even have any kind of, because we're the grantee on this, so it's saying that we're responsible, that we're going to pay all costs and expenses of construction, maintenance, and repairs. So if we're not, and the property owner is, why is that in here? Can you explain that to me?
Sure. Once we accept the easement, well, let me back up. We're not going to accept ownership of the infrastructure system until it fully tests out by your utility director. So this document looks forward to the future. I have not seen this development, but I'm assuming it is not fully built out at this time, so you don't have water and sewer in the ground. So this document is necessary for the city to be able to maintain. It is. Okay. I normally never have a problem being heard, so I always try and temper my inside voice.
Well, it's also for you too, that they can't hear unless
No
we-
problem.
Okay.
So I don't have a problem with the way it's drafted, and here's the reason why. Because it's a forward, progressive-looking document that will take place, that the easement will be in effect. It doesn't need to be recorded until y'all have accepted ownership of the systems. Once you accept ownership of the systems, if you do repair work on them, then you will have the obligation to maintain the systems, the cost of the systems moving forward. Traditional, I mean, that portion of its traditional under structure of the government, of a utility system enterprise fund is that they're going to pay to put it in. And then y'all are going to accept it when it meets your specs, meets all the guidelines, when your utility director signs off on it. And then from that point moving forward, accepting any maintenance bonds and the like issues, y'all are going to be responsible for the maintenance of it moving forward. So that language is correct and appropriate and reads pretty standard for how it'll look. It basically says, no different than if it were, I don't know who your telecom providers are here, Comcast. If Comcast gets an easement to put in some fiber through your neighborhood, and they get that easement from the HOA or anybody else going to the property, afterwards, they're going to be responsible for putting back the grass, the sod, whatever, in the form that it was before. And so that's the issue there. Is these are private roads, they're not being dedicated to the public. And so in the future, if y'all do repair work on that sewer system infrastructure or that water system infrastructure, then under this structure where y'all take ownership of those pipes, take ownership of that system, y'all be responsible for putting the dirt back into the ground, the topography and the condition that it was. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are we considering that for consent agenda?
So,
Well, I still have some other questions. So I'm gonna let Bill finish talking about it, and then I have some other questions.
yeah, I see. He's just pulling up the, just to show us what it looks like, but you got additional
Well,
questions?
I mean, you know, this is only my second year on city council, but I've been very involved up until now. And I don't recall, so I'll just like to get a clarification. I don't recall ever being that we've had to do this for other developments in the city, and so what is,
Because it's a private development, private roads. So the
Okay.
roads, the apartment complexes, all the roads are private.
Okay.
Alexander Crossing, the Muse, they're private, so we have to get easements.
so you've done this in the past?
Yes, like Bay Creek, the retreat at Bay Creek, it's a private development, means it
Okay.
was gated, so we have easements in there. But if it's a, say, Terra, it is a public street, so that means they're in the right-of-way, which is our right-of-way. We don't have to get easements. So anytime it's outside of our easement, or, I'm sorry, outside of our right-of-way, we have to get a easement. So
Okay.
that gives us the authority to go on and fix the repair. And if somebody says, well, why'd you fix the road? Well, if we dig up the road, we have to fix it back the way it was prior to us tearing it up.
So providing that there's never an issue or a break or any repairs done, having this easement doesn't engage the city with any way financially responsible for maintenance
Other than the
standard.
utilities,
Right, okay.
yes. So we won't be paving the road unless we tear it up. But all the utilities will belong to the city, the water, the sewer. We have a force main, which means other developments go through their development to go to our plant. So that's why we have to have easements, like Kroger. It has a force main that goes through Kroger's property. So we have an easement for that in case it gets stopped up, we can go on their property. It just keeps us from calling them at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, do you mind if we dig in your property? It gives us the ability to do it without, because we have a document that's final platted at the courthouse.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that the taxpayers aren't gonna be paying for anything on
No, the
this.
infrastructure's already there. I mean,
Okay.
it's in the process of being turned over. And once it gets final platted, we will take ownership. And there's a series of tests that has to do to make sure it passes. And once it passes, we'll take ownership, and then it becomes ours at that point.
And just to clarify that comment, your ratepayers will be paying for those repairs. This is an enterprise fund situation, right? So you're not taxing the taxpayers for any of those repairs. Your ratepayers are who be paying for those because they are paying for that infrastructure in those apartments
Okay.
or across their system.
Okay, thank you.
So you want to just explain where it goes? I mean, I just want to
So it's pretty, so can you zoom in, Mike? So this is the development. The bigger end is 78 side, and the smaller end is Old Zion. So this is a scan of a document, so it's real messed up. So the road, you'll see the road there, and the utilities are on the edge of the road. Sometimes it crosses, the force main is in a different area, but wherever there's a utility line, most of them are in the road, we'll have a easement for that, and it's a 20-foot easement, Brandon? I believe it's a 20-foot easement, that's our standard easement. We do have a force main that cuts across the property that goes to the high school. You recall the high school had a pump station, but no longer does. We removed that from our system. Now the high school flows gravity to this pump station, and then this pump station pumps it back to the plant. So we have water, and you have the lateral lines that go to the buildings. So there will be easements for all of those. You'll have an easement for the main service line for the water that comes in, and then you'll have an easement for the sewer force main.
When was the last one of these we did, and for what development?
Tim, I mean, it would probably, yeah. It's probably 5 or 6 years, I'd imagine. Not top of my head, I'd have to look and see. But anytime you're on private property, you have to get an easement. Well, we just did the easement to run a stormwater system in Granite Lane, y'all approved. That was last year. We did a 20-foot permanent easement with a 30-foot construction easement. So anytime we go on property, we have to have an easement if it's not dedicated to the city. And all easement is a dedication to the city.
Any other questions? So with that, I'd like to put it on consent.
Can we just vote on it, just in case I'm still thinking, I just have a lot of questions since I'm new to this. Can we just go ahead and vote on that Thursday?
Not a problem. Surely can.
Thank you.
Surely can.
All right. So let's see, the second one is the, so the Wimco Influent pump, this is a 23-year-old pump, had to be rebuilt. It is a budgeted item. We're replacing that pump. The cost for the pump is $66,432. Let's see. Anyway, that's really all it is. Any question on that? Like to put that on consent?
Okay, everybody okay with consent?
I'm fine with that. Do we keep the old one as a spare?
Brandon?
Just curious. Cool.
How old is this one, Brandon? I think I read it. 23 years?
23.
Yeah. Been pumping away for a long time. Okay, consent agenda.
Okay. So the next one is a new rule that is, well, the result of a new rule. There's a lead and copper pipe rule that goes into effect where we have to have all of the lead and copper service lines mapped. And that the mapping has to be turned in to the EPA by the October 16th of 2024. Currently, Terramark has been providing our stormwater inspection and GIS, and what this contract is for $20,000 for them to pick up the cost of mapping the lead and copper lines. Anything else to add on that, Danny?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
So it says, they say in here they have history, so they're doing other projects for us. What are they working on? What did they do?
They're mapping our stormwater and doing stormwater inspections.
Okay. And then I have a question. It says that we're going to identify lead pipe, lead line, service lines. Is there going to be, if they identify lead service lines in our city, or is the city going to be responsible for, is this to go, are we going to end up being responsible for replacing lead? Because you can't be drinking water and things out of lead pipes. Is this going to eventually lead us into having to make some replacements?
I suspect we'll be in charge of monitoring them at least. What do you think, Brandon? Come on up to Mike. You just gonna have to anyway.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, we're going to have to, Terramark will help us along the way with trying to get the inventory of our entire system. They'll be helping us with that database to submit to EPA, and but we will have to get an inventory of our entire system of the city, of whether it's galvanized, lead, copper, whatever, PVC. And then eventually, once we get the inventory to EPA, there is a deadline, I think 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, after, I think 2026, that we'll have to be completed with upgrading any type of lines that are lead.
But not in personal property, though. Just
No.
our lines.
Yeah, but we do
That
have to
go
take an
to the
inventory of
residents.
both. Yes.
Yes.
So they're inventorying not only public property, but they're inventorying personal
Yes.
property as well, so,
And this is they're telling us that they're not asking us. Because I
Right.
asked the same question, I'm like, why do we have to do it? And Brandon, real quick, said this, you have to do it
well, I
by
understand the
law.
EPA's
Yeah.
involved in this, but I'm saying if they find that the city itself has lead pipes,
Then we'll have to.
that will be something that and you're saying that we would have to have that taken care of by 2026?
I think it's 2026, yeah, just on our side, on the city side, we'll have to.
Correct.
But we have to let the homeowner know, basically, what type of pipe material they have on their side as well. But we do have to take inventory of the entire line to the house.
Okay, thank you.
So do we have any estimate on how much lead pipe's out there?
Not at the moment, that's what this is for, so we
Right.
can, yeah.
Brandon, just out of curiosity, is there a problem with copper pipe now? That's always been the, sort of the top of the heap.
I think it's more lead, issues with lead piping and stuff than it is copper, but they're wanting inventory on all of it, so.
Okay. We'll have a lot of that downtown, won't we? More than likely,
We
Yep.
might, yeah.
probably. Okay.
Any other questions? I'd like to put that on consent.
Everybody okay with consent agenda? So done.
All right. So,
Thank you, Brandon.
skipping on down to the next one. I'm getting there. All right, so the next one's subject is the runoff reduction feasibility for Logan Miami development. The request is to waive the stormwater runoff reduction requirement for this development. The ordinance says that you have to retain or reduce the first inch of rain. You got to retain it for 24 hours. And that's what it's doing, is it's percolating that into the ground. If the soils aren't favorable for that, then what happens is they have to monitor they have to look at the runoff that's going to occur, and you'll see in the packet that explains is that they have to calculate 1.2 times that amount, and they'll have to retain that and then remove at least 80% of the post-developed TSS loading. So in effect, what this is going to do is it's basically they're going to have to maintain 20% more of what actually be rain coming down on there, or what's actually that have to they have to capture. And so basically they're going to have to build bigger. The infrastructure was built back, I don't know how long ago, long time ago, and it won't meet current standards, so they'll have to make changes to their BMPs. So the request is, like I said, the request is to exempt them from the runoff reduction. However, the effect is they're going to have to capture more.
Do you have a map of where they're going to be capturing this?
So what'll happen is we'll say agree to this reduction, and then their engineer will have to come back in and develop a new their new BMPs and run that back through the city, and then it'll go to the engineer for the review.
Well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, because this is one of my pet peeves. Because if you'll look up runoff reduction and how you can accomplish that, number one is to have a large tree canopy. And we were working towards a tree ordinance, and I understand this land was zoned and started before that, but we've got to look forward, because there's no point for us to have rules if we're not going to adhere to them. And if we give this guy a reduction, then the next guy's going to come in, he's going to clear cut his land. He's going to not be able to effectively take care of his runoff reduction, and so on and so forth. The other way you can solve this is you make the developer, you go back to the drawing table, and he has to reduce his impervious surface amount. So we're sitting here, we're going to let this developer come in here in 17.62 acres or 82 acres, whatever it is, and he can build every square inch of it he wants. And it's his neighbors and his surrounding people that are going to be affected by the water runoff, and understand that now we're going to say that they're going to have to capture it. But we can't just keep doing this. We're going to have to go back and look at the tree ordinance, because a large tree canopy would have probably solved his runoff problem. And also, I expect developers should do due diligence. There was a piece of property behind my house that was for sale, and I had somebody come in that is familiar with it and look at the land and tell me if it was a viable piece of property for what I wanted to do. And they said, if all you want to do is buy it to keep somebody from building in your backyard, it's a good piece of land, but otherwise it's got 3 springs on it, it's swampy, it's this and that, and so you can't build on it. Anybody that comes to Loganville has a clue that we're sitting on bedrock. And so he knew that there was going to be water runoff, and yet he still designed a development that takes up every inch of his land. So I would like, again, that we relook at the tree ordinance for future, because if we give this guy his variance, then the next guy's going to want his and his and his, and then why do we even have the rules? But I just think that we're not doing our due diligence, the developers aren't doing their due diligence, and I would send him back to the table and let him reduce the footprint of his project, and he will then be able to come into compliance with our rules.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't think we can say what he knew. I don't think that we're in a position to say what the developer knew or didn't do, first of all. Second, does this have anything to do with trees, or is it the soil and the rock? I mean, is it the earth or the trees?
Then we do the perk test.
Bill?
This is soil.
And so I want to understand, Brandon, when it says that it should be, we should retain an inch, is that what it's saying? That we want to keep the first inch where it absorbs into the soil, and because of the soil, it does not do that, it runs off, is that right? So what do they do? I mean, like any developer, when you've got a soil issue like this, they ask us to change it. Where is it going to go? So like if he can't, this developer can't do the 1 inch that is, or the ½ inch that's per our requirements, where does the extra runoff go? Is there a pipe? Is there a retaining pond? I mean, like, where does the water go?
Well, there's 2 detention ponds on that property.
Okay,
So and they're designed to catch that.
even though it's more.
Yeah, that's.
So, I mean, it's not going to run down the street, it's not
No.
going to, we're not going to flood neighboring areas with the additional. Do we have any idea what the difference is between I mean, like, how much is it different?
So, I mean, that's a good question. So what the ordinance says is you have to capture that first and trying to keep it local.
That first inch.
Right.
Right.
Right. And they've looked at it, and they ran soil test, and they ran soil test to determine that it doesn't permeate.
Is it like not
fast
perk?
enough. Right.
Is it like the same
Exactly.
idea as not perking? Okay.
Right. Which is common for this area.
Right.
We have a lot of clay, we have a lot of rock. So, and there again, the original detention ponds were put in a long time ago, 19 years ago. So developer's looking, I guess he's looking to sell it, whatever, he's looking to make changes to it, to develop it. He's got to do a site plan. They look at it and said it's not going to work. So they're going to have the fix is, and what the ordinance says is, okay, figure out how much water you're getting, multiply that by 1.2, and then retain 80%, which puts you back to 80% of it on the property, so that in the detention ponds that it's going to create, and then it'll eventually clear up, it holds your solids, and then it'll either go into the ground or go downstream. So,
But does a change in the site plan change, it doesn't change how the soil perks, does it?
no.
But you would be reducing the amount of impervious surface, so there's a bigger surface for it to
Right,
perk
but it-
into.
But it's just a bigger rock. I mean,
It's still 17 point whatever acres.
right. Okay.
Brandon, when I was reading
Thank
this,
you, thank you, Brandon.
I kept asking myself, what is this developer going to do if the council does not agree to it? I just don't have a clue. More retention ponds?
I don't have a clue either.
Well, will this, our new ordinance, the one that we rewrote, the detention pond, so was this before that? So in other words, he can dig those big, deep holes and put fences around them. It's not going to be where he's got the fields
So
and things, right?
this is already developed. This is developed 19 years ago. The pond's already there. So he would have to, when you ask where would the water go, so on page 25 of the packet, it says 1.25 through ponds 1 and 2. So ponds 1 and 2 are going to have to be created larger than they're currently designed to hold that 120% of water, where normally it would be 100%. So so look at it this way, he's still catching the water. It's just saying our ordinance is the first 1 inch in 24 hours has to be absorbed throughout the entire complex. It can't go to the pond. His soil can't absorb that because it's red clay. This is not just his engineer, but our engineer went out there and has confirmed what he's saying is true, because that was the first step in order to ask for this variance, is what I call it. So this is, talking to our engineer, this is very common in the Gwinnett side. This is my first one I've seen where they couldn't meet the runoff reduction. But if you denied it, then what he would have to do is bring in bioswales and bring in awful lot amount of soil to absorb that water. I don't know how much we're talking about because I'm not an engineer, but he just told me it was abnormal amount of soil.
So Danny, our engineer agreed with their presentation and their engineer.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
So this is not to get around or add more units. Actually, he's building a bigger pond. It's gonna cost him more money. But, we just changed this policy where you would have to vote on this because it is a huge issue. And I don't want it to be one person making that decision, especially with all the talk we've had about stormwater in the last 6-8 months. So that's why it's before y'all to make the big decisions. So
We
this
don't
is-
have any idea what their plan would be. They haven't shown us, okay, so if you give us this, this is how we're going to do it. We haven't seen what the ponds will look like. We haven't seen the plans for those ponds. They're asking for a variance, and then we have no idea what they're going to do.
No, we've already know the ponds, right, Tim? We've already got the plans. It's just gonna be a deeper hole than it is now. They'll have to run calculations based on the amount of rainfall, based on the amount of pervious surface. They'll have to calculate how big that pond needs to be. But if you're looking, but he will not adhere to the new stormwater ordinance because he was already permitted. Even for you to pass the tree ordinance, he wouldn't have been
All right, I
under
get that.
that. Because this is an existing development.
But I'm looking forward at the next
Yeah.
development that comes along.
I understand.
But in situations like this, would be considered a normal solution. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, the state,
I mean, if the engineers agreed to it,
yeah, and the state allows it. I mean, this is something that they'll allow if they can't meet that first 1 inch of rainfall. They rely on the ponds to be able to get that 80% of the suspended solids, so.
Hey, Bill, where's, I guess, Mr. Hune is the engineer for the client?
Correct.
He references in his letter that he was responding to the city engineer's comment number 25 about runoff. Where is that? Is that in our pack? Like, where, is our city engineer's report in here?
No.
Okay.
I don't believe he did. Well, he just gave Brandon an email, I believe.
Yeah, there's no report.
Oh, okay. Do you know where the city engineer's comments number 25 might be?
It'd be in the planning folder, right? Yeah.
Okay.
We can send that comment to you.
That'd be great.
tonight.
If you can send an email, I'd
Tim, can
appreciate
you
it.
send those comments, please?
Doesn't have to be right now. I'm just curious to read it.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. I just
All right,
like to read the comments.
I'd like to put that on consent.
No, I would like to vote on that.
That's fine.
Okay.
We'll revisit Thursday night and we'll vote. Of course, we're going to vote on all this Thursday night, just not in one package.
So the next item on our list is the, coming up, is the Pecan Street. No, that's not true. I went too far. It is. So it's the water tank maintenance fee. It's an annual fee. Our company that does this is Utility Services Company. They'll inspect and maintain. It's the water tank on Pecan Street. It says a budgeted item. The item is $15,509.53. Is there, and it's also, you know, we have to do this, we have to do it, maintain it, but we have to do it also to maintain our permit. Are there any questions?
Danny, is this the same company that just painted it? Because it was just painted. Looks good, too. How often they paint it? Once every 10 years?
So I'd like to put that on consent.
Consent agenda?
Okay.
So moved.
All righty. So this is the biggie, or this is a repair to the Centrasys centrifuge. It's actually not in operation at this point. The city is using staff to maintain it 16 hours a day, correct? It's out for repair. The cost, the utility department is requesting approval not to exceed $85,000 for the unit to be repaired. It's going to take 4 to 6 weeks, so it is vital with maintaining it 16 hours a day. Anything you want to add, Brandon?
So this has already been approved by me under emergency. This
Yeah.
is just a formality for y'all to approve it in council.
Just out of curiosity, what's the new one cost? Hundreds of thousands, probably? If
Probably
you can,
about 400.
400,000? If you can get them.
Yeah, we don't know what the wait time would be on a new one, so.
So with that, I'll put that on consent.
Consent, everybody? Okay.
All righty.
Okay.
And with that, I don't have any other action items.
You're doing so well, you ain't got, can't come up with a couple extras?
You can do mine too.
Okay, thank you, Bill. We'll move right along to Public Works Facilities Committee report. Melanie Long.
I'll have some reports Thursday night, but I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie. We'll move on to Economic Development Committee. Brandon Whitfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple items today. The first one is an intergovernmental agreement with Walton County to use West Walton Park for the Independence Celebration. The contract the same as the years in the past, no changes. We just need to approve this so we can go ahead and move forward with the Independence Day celebration. Any questions?
That's
I'll
July
let
4th, right?
Yes.
Celebration.
I'd like to get that on consent.
Everybody okay? Okay.
And then the next one is for the Independence Day celebration as well. It's for the, it's the intergovernment agreement with the city of Snellville to use their stage, or their stages. And we rent it for them, what was it, $100? 200? Yeah, and they have a person that comes and sets it up, and then he stays and he breaks it down and takes it back. Just, that's how they like to operate it. And it's the same as years past as well, no changes. And I'd also ask this to be on consent if there's no questions.
Chris, this is the third year we've done this?
Yeah.
Third or fourth?
So the rental is 50, maintenance 100, and then $250 for the person.
Yes.
Okay, everybody okay with consent? Okay. Consent, please.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Brandon. We'll move to the city manager's report. Danny Roberts.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Then we'll move to city attorney's report. Paul Rosenthal.
Mayor, council, I'm just happy to be here, glad to join y'all. I don't have anything for you this evening. I am just getting my feet wet, so I will ask y'all to extend a little bit of grace, as when you ask questions, if I don't know the answer right off bat, I will get back to you, because we're learning your codes. We've been through them, and we're working on a few things for Mr. Roberts right now, but we're just happy to be here, always available to answer any questions y'all may have, but I don't have anything then specifically this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
That's a smart way to do it. Every city's got a little bit of deep water out there too, don't they? All right, items for Thursday night. We want those on consent agenda? Everybody okay with last month's council meeting minutes and financials? Everybody okay?
Yep.
Okay, put those on consent agenda. Okay. Anything else from anybody? Comments? Okay, comments? Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting adjourned. However, now we move into any community feedback that is available and you want to share, and each person has 5 minutes. Go to it. Who's first?
I want to say something if I may.
You gonna uphold my 5-minute rule?
No,
That's what I worry about.
5 minutes. I like to call 20 minutes.
I know.
For these guys that want to go home, I'm not going to do that. I just want to announce that Washington County Special Olympics will be having our games on April the 20th and April the 21st. And they'll be held at Monroe Area High School. Anybody that would like to come and volunteer, we would love to have you come and volunteer. On the 20th, it's going to be the older children, and then on April the 21st, it'll be elementary. The 20th will be a longer day, and the elementary students will not be there quite as long. Volunteers are going to be there at 8:30, and we would love to have you. It's just a lot of fun.
Oh, it makes for a great day.
You'd really enjoy it.
a great day.
It's a really great day, and we have about 325 children, and they're all from Washington County schools. The Bridge, we have the private schools too, and Social Circle is with us. Right now, we have over 300 students that are in our Washington County Special Olympics. It's lots of fun, touches your heart, and if you're hungry, we're gonna have pizza. But you can't eat it on the ball field anymore because we have a new ball field in. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great group of kids, young adults, I guess, many of them. Okay, anyone else? Lisa, you have any announcements? Announce it. It'll go on YouTube.
It's April 20th.
April 20th, doors open at 5.
Okay, April 20th, we have a Women's Club Spectacular Bunko game at the Rock Gym. The cost is $20 per ticket, and they're trying to raise money for a scholarship fund for a Loganville student. Very good.
Tickets do have to be purchased in advance.
Tickets do have to be purchased in advance. Okay? Okay?
So the movie will be back the 22nd, the week of 22nd of April to really the 1st, but depending on weather, so it'll be a hectic trying to get the last. No, they're still trying to get May 1st. So they're actually called today. They're going to build some tents on the 4 acres for their parade floats they're going to have for the last scene. And they'll have a tent out back here on that concrete pad next to the restrooms for their catering tent. So I approved that today with them. So you see a bunch of tents, that's what it's for. And they'll do their big carnival parade on the last week of, I think, April, based on the weather.
Will they let us store those for 6 or 8 months to use them in the Christmas
I
parade?
think you already know the answer to that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
They'll say maybe, then they'll take them.
I got the elk.
But you got the elk? Good. Good, I didn't want to go through that again. Just for those of you at the YouTube audience and here, the first 3 episodes of first 4 episodes of the Big Door Prize is on Apple TV as we are here, and you can view them anytime, and the rest of them will be coming on board as we go along. What they're making now is season 2, and each season is comprised of 10 episodes, as they said. So it's really interesting to see what the heck they've done, the imagination that they have to take our city and really show it in a whole different light. It's really interesting, it really is. Everybody should look at it if you get Apple TV. Okay, is there anything else? Okay, seeing no others, wish everybody a great evening, and we'll see everybody Thursday night.